Hello everyone, this is Hunter D here, and today we are going to be reviewing RWBY Volume 6, Chapter 3, The Lost Fable. The long-awaited episode of RWBY is finally here, but I want to discuss my general thoughts before we go into spoiler territory for this episode. Overall, it's a good episode, but some things kind of felt a little underwhelming to say the least. But I'll get into spoiler territory for this particular episode. But overall, it's a very, very solid episode of RWBY. It's just finally we get so many answers to a lot of questions that we have been asked for years now. And this is a very important episode of the show. It's very important. And to actually have it here now, I honestly kind of liked the episode, but I just thought some things could have been done better, but that's just me. So, without going into spoiler territory, I would say it was more of an 8 out of 10 episode, at least for my liking anyway. But without any further ado, that was a spoiler warning. So you can leave now if you haven't seen the episode. Go leave, watch the episode, come back here to hear my thoughts. Okay, so we're going to go into spoiler territory here. I think the first thing about this episode was the fact that everyone was able to use magic, and it's kind of like the golden tower, stuff like that. Everyone was able to use it. And the other humanity, like Humanity 1, in a way, was able to use magic and shit, which was very nice, which was very cool. And then we got to see Ozma, one of Ozpin's first incarnations, like going to the golden tower, trying to save Salem from it, or kind of claim a prize into it. And we actually do get to see that. We get to see them like getting bonding and whatnot. And it's true that they're lovers. You know, at first, when the theory came out that it's possible that they'll be lovers, I kind of didn't like it as much. But now looking into this episode, getting more detail about it, I kind of liked it. I really liked the way of how they handled this. And then, of course, later down the line, Ozma gets sick and stuff like that. So he dies, he gets passed away, and then next thing we know, Salem goes and visits the God of Light to bring him back, like bring Ozma back. Because, it's going to happen that someone's going to ask, like, since we have, like, gods actually here, the God of Light and the God of Darkness, it's going to be obvious that people are going to try to bring back their lovers from the dead, or anyone, really, that they cared about. So, but of course, the God of Life said no, because we don't want to break the cycle of life and death. And then next thing we know, Salem goes to the God of Darkness later on and asks him the same question of bringing Ozma back. Of course, he felt so honored because no one really goes to the God of Darkness, okay? No one really does. And of course, he grants her her wish, and God of Darkness brings Ozma back, but of course, the God of Light comes back in here to be like, hey, she asked for me first, and the next thing we know, the God of Darkness is like, okay, gone. And then next thing we know, we keep going like back and forth between Ozma being brought back. It was kind of a funny scene, to be honest, but seeing like, oh my god. It's just all this moment, this segment here was really good. I really enjoyed this moment here. And then the next thing we know, Salem becomes immortal. Okay, she goes inside the pool of light, and then that's how she becomes immortal, as to why we can't defeat her physically, okay? And I think it was at this moment that we knew that Salem needs to understand the value of life and death. But if you make somebody immortal, of course they're not going to understand it, because they don't know what it's like. So, of course, she's not going to, like, understand the value of life and death. Because if you live on forever, and most likely it's going to happen that people are going to wither and die. So that's going to be byproducts for the things that you want to do. So, of course, she's not going to understand it. So it's kind of ridiculous. But, of course, Salem goes to the other kingdoms of Remnant, at least to this point on. And at least when we consider big kingdoms doing Humanity 1, she gets into a trial to try to kill her. Of course, it doesn't, and then we go to the point where they all team up to go defeat the gods. And then, of course, they fail, and then the God of Darkness just wipes out all of the world. Okay, and this they just turn they just turn everyone to ash, and the god of light and the god of darkness just yeet out of there and destroy the moon. That's how the moon gets destroyed, is because the god of darkness kind of went collateral damage on the moon. Whoops. And then after this whole segment, the world is really falling into crumble. And the next thing we know it, Salem goes to the pool of darkness. She goes inside. All right, she goes inside the pool, and the next thing we know it, she becomes who she is right now. Of course, she doesn't have veins at this moment in time. She's still like a very young Salem. And during this moment, I think this is when Ozma gets to be reincarnated over and over again until he fixes his mistake of Salem. Okay, just to fix it all. And of course, Ozma accepts. But then the next thing we know, during this whole moment in time, we have now an endgame of RWBY. We have an endgame, which will be Judgment Day. Okay, it will be Judgment Day. Will be the end of the show. All right, that's the definitive end. It will be, we bring all the relics together, and we do actually get to see the relics now. We get to see, of course, the lamp, the relic of knowledge, the crown, relic of choice, and we get to see a scepter and a sword. I think the sword is probably going to be destruction, and I think the scepter is likely going to be creation. It's pretty obvious what they're going to be. So yeah, we have definitive end for the show, which is nice now, and of course he comes back to Humanity 2, right? The reset of humanity, and he reunites with Salem again, and of course they become lovers again. And they get children, they have magic and shit, and it is very interesting to see how this all turns out. Of course, Ozpin didn't really like Salem's plan of how she wanted to bring world peace. So that Judgment Day, when that comes, can be a lot easier. But of course, Ozpin didn't like the idea of how she wanted to do it, and of course he tries to leave with the children. Of course, the children get magic because of genetics and stuff like that. And next thing he tries to leave. Salem gets told everything about it, about some of his lies that he kept secret for years. Of course, they start fighting, and the castle goes down, which we presume is the same castle that Salem is in now, because the windows look pretty similar. Like everything just looks similar to the throne room, to everything. It looks very similar to what it once was, and that's basically what happens from there. The children, we presume, die. So does Ozpin, and Ozma in a way gets disintegrated. And then next thing we know, the other reincarnation, I think, was Dad Ozpin at this point, comes into play. Well, there's a lot of them in the past. Like we get to see the old wizard, and we presume is the old wizard from the story right here, 2411. We presume is the old wizard because of everything that he looks and was drunk and stuff like that. There was 2 times when that happened. And then we go to this one, and we actually get to see children with silver eyes, which is actually very cool. We got to see that. There's not much stuff here. This is pretty much the end of the story, where we go to present day, and then next thing we know, we find out that Jin tells this Ozpin that you cannot defeat Salem. You can't. It's impossible to do so. So I get the feeling that's what Ozpin didn't want them to know, is that all the things that they've been going for nothing to try to defeat her, is that it was all for nothing. Like, they really can't do it. It's pretty much she has to do it herself, or there could be another way that we just don't know. And, of course, we meet back with Ozpin lying on the ground, or Oscar, and that's the end of the episode, okay? That was a lot to go through. But yeah, overall, it's a very good episode of RWBY. I really enjoyed it, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. But, of course, that's going to be a prediction episode for episode 4, for the episode 4 prediction video. And so far, it's a really good episode, but there were some things like the moon I just felt, and there was another thing I was pretty disappointed about, but mostly it's just nitpicks that could have been fixed, like the moon. obviously, because it was his Clado damage. It was kind of like yeet on it, and it got destroyed in the process of it all. And it was kind of a bummer. It was kind of a letdown because a lot of people, especially me, thought the moon was going to be something grander, because we were always told that the moon was going to be like, very important in the show. Very important. But so far, what we know is that how the moon gets destroyed was kind of underwhelming. Maybe it's a little bit weird, but oh well. Uh, I also kind of wish that we got to see Salem versus Ozma. That would have been cool, but of course we didn't get to see that, which is kind of a bummer. But overall, it is a good episode. Okay, it's a good episode. There's some things that I thought were a little underwhelming, to say the least. It was a little bit underwhelming. But overall, pretty good episode of RWBY. I would give it like an 8 out of 10. At least with me. It would be an 8 out of 10 episode. But yeah, it was really good. And so this has been Hunt SD here. Remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for future videos like these. And I will see you all next time. Bye!